I am Professor Prasad Rao, Professor, GITAM Institute of Management, GITAM University, Vishakhapatanam campus, and also Executive Board Member of Association of Indian Management Schools. Friends, very good morning and hearty greetings to all of you. Before I introduce the guest, Mr. Sai Prasad Devineni, I would like to brief about the aims. The Association of Indian Management Schools, AIMS, over 30 years ago, started a glorious and highly impact-making body, a network of management institutions offering postgraduate courses was born on 27th August 1988 in Bengaluru. It is a non-profit making society registered under the Karnataka Societies Registration Act of 1960. As an independent networking body for professional development of management education in India, AIMS takes pride in having nearly 800 top-class institutions like IIMs, ISB, ASCII, Xavier institutions, Wellinger Institute of Management, NMIMS, Jamnalal Bajaj Institute, ICFA, MDI, IMI, SP Jain, like that, several B schools and many management departments of universities as its members. It is one of the largest networking bodies of B schools in the world. It is the official representative of Indian management schools in India as well as in some important international forums. The major initiatives by the AIMS are, to name a few, policy advocacy role, annual management conclave or convention, and recognizing the professionals and the management institutions with several awards like V School Innovation Award, ICFA Best Teacher Award, Ramaswamy P. Iyer Best Young Teacher Award, Best Case Award, Best Student Paper Award, like that several recognitions are there. And more important award from the AIMS is Ravi J. Mathai National Fellow Award. There are so many professionals compete for this prestigious award. And AIMS conducts annually, yearly, twice or thrice, the AIMS test for management education, that is entrance examination for admission into B schools. The financial institution, the financial assistance also will be provided for many member institutions from the AIMS body on a regular basis. And also AIMS started a journal called AIMS Journal of Management, and AIMS also has connections with international bodies like AIMS and international networks, ACSB, ACPSB, etc. And during this pandemic, AIMS is the first professional body to take advantage of the situation and started webinars and online FDPs. In view of the current COVID pandemic from mid-April 2020, AIMS started conducting webinars in almost all aspects impacting the management education, industry, and society as a whole. Further, online faculty development programs on various topics, research, case studies, etc. have also been offered now. Friends, AIMS is now under the safe custody of the best professionals, starting from founding illustrious personalities and the present management body, governance body. The current chairperson and president of AIMS is Dr. Sujata Mangaraj, the treasurer, Professor Narayan Reddy Garu. The other executive body members are meeting from time to time to play its role for the management education in the world, particularly in India. Today, as part of the continuous webinar sessions, we have requested Mr. Sai Prasad Devineni to talk about the business continuity management. Before he starts his presentation, it is my formal responsibility to introduce all of you the guest of the day. Mr. Sai Prasad Devineni is a senior executive in corporate management with 27 years of experience in India and abroad. Currently, he is a director, Infra and Energy, Indus Infra Investments, and he is also a founder of Idea Cult. The Idea Cult is actually promoting, ideation to enterprise. It is helping several, management professionals and engineering graduates to become entrepreneurs. Sai Prasad has master's degree in mechanical engineering from IIT Chennai and advanced management degree from MIT Sloan School of Business, US, in strategy and technology management. He also has professional degrees in risk management, contract management, etc. He is a certified director from the Institute of Directors. Sai Prasad has been involved in many project management infrastructure development assignments throughout his career in Larsen & Toubro, Chase, Panorama, Behrad, Leighton International, SUW Infrastructure, Kunal Structures, etc. He has a wide global exposure through his assignments in US, Malaysia, Bahrain, Qatar, Libya, Turkey, Ethiopia, etc. He actively involved in development of large infrastructure projects on BOT and BOOT models in various countries. Currently, he is heading around $300 million infrastructure and energy fund for SJ Global Investments as a director Asia based at Dubai. He is also serving on the boards of various infra and energy companies in the world. Sai Prasad has been actively involved in promoting entrepreneurial culture among youth and students and also professionals. He is a co-founder of Idea Cult, a startup accelerator in Singapore, helping aspiring entrepreneurs in India and Southeast Asia. Mr. Sai Prasad has been a freelance faculty member teaching strategy and risk management at prestigious institutions across. He has been a regular speaker at various national and international seminars and conferences on international business, international projects, risk management, and project finance, etc. Apart from all of them, Sai Prasad is a good friend of mine. He has actually, been participating in various student development activities. And he has been a regular visitor across business schools. He loves interacting with the student community. And also he encourages the students to speak out, to come out with their ideas so that he can, handhold them to a certain extent so that they can take their ideas forward. We are very, very happy to have Sai Prasad Garu with us today, and I'm sure wonderful people are joining the webinar, starting from Professor Alamuri Suryanarayana Master. He is a known professional across the country, I think world. There are so many students spread across. I'm sure this kind of presentation will help many participants today because the same is going live on Facebook and YouTube also. And I'm acknowledging my colleagues at Association of Indian Management Schools. Illustrious personalities and professionals are there on the board. They actually steer various committees for the development and promotion of the management education across, particularly in India. I'm now very happy to invite Mr. Devineni to start his session. Sir, Devineni Garu, over to you.
Thank you, Prasad Garu. Thanks for your generous and nice words. At the outset, let me thank AIMS for giving me this opportunity to interact with this glorious participants who are assembled today. And of course, Prasad Garu has been my motivator to get into this program. Thank you very much, sir. Thanks for your support. Friends, to start with, actually, let me quickly give a little intro about my job. I am Sai Prasad. I work for SJ Global International. It is one of the very old investment trusts based out of London. I take care of infrastructure and energy investments based out of Dubai. We also have a small accelerating company. It is called Idea Cult. Idea Cult is basically intended for providing support and hand-holding to all these young entrepreneurs who are who want to got some ideas, but they want to convert into business. This is where we step in. So this is my brief what I do. Coming back to the today's job, business continuity management. Friends, I think to start with, of course, even being this on a negative side, but this is the reality, harsh reality all of us are going through. For the last 20 years, world has seen many incidents, many disasters, starting from 9 September World Trade Center blasting to 2007-2008 financial crisis, subprime crisis. Then thereon, we moved on to 2011, tsunami disaster in Pacific region, and of course then the Ebola virus, SARS virus across all the world. We have seen many disasters, but today we have come to the times of COVID now. COVID is this COVID times, all of us have become victims. In fact, personally, I myself have become a victim. I came to India on March 20th, just before the lockdown started in India, and I got stuck here for the last 5 months doing nothing. I mean, except interacting with the people and the clients. I was supposed to disperse about 120 million investments to various companies in India and other parts of Asia. I'm unable to do that because I'm unable to travel anywhere. So this is a harsh reality. But the basic difference between COVID and earlier instances were confined to a particular region or a particular section of the people in the world. But today, this particular pandemic has touched everyone in the world, and directly or indirectly, and every region in the world. Friends, I think the effects of COVID are quite large. For example, I was going to a report of World Bank a couple of days ago. It says the GDP of the world is going to shrink by 0.5%. Earlier, it was projected as 2.9%, and now it has been revised to 2.4%. This 0.5% difference in GDP shrinkage in the world means, in terms of business, it's going to be about $5.5 trillion. That's huge. So if this kind of situation happens, what will happen to the companies? What will happen to the people? In fact, obviously, there are millions of companies which are going to file liquidation. Millions of companies are going to closure. Already, it's been estimated that around 7.5 million small and medium companies are going to wind up. So this is the scenario. On today's story, we are going to talk about only this: how to save this 7.5 million companies, how they could have saved if could have practiced the BCM. So today, the objective of this particular presentation is to give you a gist of BCM, business continuity management, how it helps companies to survive these kind of disasters. In fact, in the world, nothing is, no one is spared anywhere. We are living in a world of, global connectivity. A small incident somewhere will have large implications. Let me tell you, a couple of nostalgic incidents. For example, you take our great dictator, Hitler. In 1905, he applied for admission in Academy of Fine Arts in Vienna. He applied for that twice. He was rejected. Just because he was rejected, out of vengeance, he has gone and joined the military of Germany, and later he became the dictator of Germany, and that led to the World War. Everybody knows. And same case with Airbnb. During 2008, disaster, when the financial markets disaster happened, subprime crisis took place. A 25% hike in their rentals could not be afforded by two gentlemen. Then they started, buying airbeds, and they realized they can be rented to similar people, and that's how the Airbnb concept has started. Today, Airbnb is a $25 billion unicorn company. So, friends, small incidents, yes, they have large implications, and imagine a situation like COVID have much larger implications. Let us quickly go through. This is what we call butterfly effect. No one can escape the butterfly effect in this world. And of course, we have to make, in this session, let us understand how we can make companies to insulate themselves or to make themselves more resilient towards these kind of disasters. Let us quickly understand some of the disasters which took place: Chernobyl, continuous cyber attacks, World Trade Center disaster, and the Coffee Day. Suddenly, Siddharth Shetty, the founder, the CEO, and managing director, committed suicide, and Satyam fraud, a number of cases, Enron. So many things happened in this world which affected the business community. So we normally, in business parlance, in management parlance, all these incidences, we classify them as risks. So how risks happen? Let us quickly understand how risk happens. Risk basically can be classified: known, unknown, known, known, unknown, unknown, unknown. Basically, for example, monsoon during August in India, you have rains. This is a known. So there is absolute certainty. So we prepare ourselves to manage these kind of rains. And the known unknown. For example, in India, every year in the month of February, they present the budget. During the budget, definitely there will be some tax exemptions, tax additions, and tax structure changes and all. These are all known unknowns. Certainly in February, this budget will happen, but what kind of changes will happen, we don't know. So this is a known unknown. So this has got a lesser certainty. An unknown unknown. And these kind of pandemics are unknown unknown. They're absolutely, we don't have any control on them. So your ability of controlling these risks will vary from very high absolute uncertainty to absolute certainty. So we need to play around within this. And all this game depends how you manage the risk. This game depends on how you understand this kind of classification. Let us see quickly hierarchy of identified risks. There are three types of risks: local risk, global risk, and extreme risk. Local risk basically depends on organization level, company level, strategy, operations, time cost, interface management, productivity, etc. These risks basically you can manage within your organization and within your team level, and this will have a higher control in terms of managing the risk. And global risk, for example, politics, rules and regulations, economics, social conditions, currencies, these are all classified as global risk, where not only you, the world has to face this, so you have lesser ability to control these risks. But when you come to the extreme risks like Mother Nature, nobody can stop if something happens. Pandemics, sabotages, frauds, bankruptcy, and of course a new thing is added here for the cyber attacks. So the cyber attacks is one of the major threats nowadays in the entire world all of us are experiencing. So this is basically how you manage the risk. This has been this depends on what kind of risk you are dealing with. Friends, typically in a business perspective, the risk is managed by part of the insurance, and partly by transferring your risk to somebody else, a third party, or sometimes hedging it, or sometimes leveraging with other party in contracts, and of course the business risk. This is a typical way how risks are managed in the world. Let us understand. If you see the extreme left side of the screen, right side of the screen, you have the credit. Credit was the first element which has started the entire management of the risk started from this credit. Mostly this credit was managed by, this was used, these techniques were used by, finance companies for checking somebody's credit worthiness. And later, the same principles have been applied to, markets, capital markets. And then the financial risk management concepts have started. And today, these risk management concepts have been practiced across the companies in virtually all operations. right from your operations, your business development, your markets, finance, credit limits, everything. That is why now a new concept has started. It is called enterprise risk management. Enterprise risk management is basically looking your organization in a complete perspective and making it developing a protocol how to mitigate every risk whenever they come across. And of course, there are successful companies who have been practicing this kind of enterprise risk management principles, like ArcelorMittal, Toyota. They are one of the biggest beneficiaries in the world. How this is operated? Enterprise risk management is basically operated. It's like an ongoing process. It is an integral part of how an organization operates. It applies to all organizations, just not the financials. Risk applies broadly. All issues which are going to threaten your organizational objectives, and risk is not limited to threats alone. There are also opportunities associated with that. This is how this is basically a culture. A culture is evolved on risk mitigation across the companies. Let's understand how the ERM concepts have evolved. It started with Basel protocol in 1974, where the banking supervision process has started, and in 1988 again the same protocols have been improvised depending on the situation there. Then in 1992 there were a large number of fraud cases. So to address those issues, a new protocol has been written in 1992, and in 1995 a few countries like Australia, New Zealand, Canada, Japan, these kind of countries have adopted and made the ERM process mandatory for large companies. And of course, in 2004, COSO, the current protocol is in practice, and it has been doctrined as a risk management integrated framework. Now, many large companies, large corporates, and transnational companies have been following this protocol. Now, if we understand the process, ERM or risk management, enterprise risk management is more of reactive. Now, the world has realized they have to be proactive. The reason is, if you see the blue curve, this is the start time. Suppose a particular incident starts happening, how quickly the organization or the people in the organization react to this kind of situation, and how quickly they jump into the mitigation process. So the implication, the cost implication of the risk depends on this particular responsiveness time. And that is why there is a thought process which started. Everybody started thinking, instead of making the risk mitigation process a reactive mechanism, let us make it as a proactive mechanism. And that is where the BCM concept has evolved. Basically, what are the critical criteria in managing these kind of disruptions? One, the responsiveness, how quickly you respond to the situation. Two, resilience. For example, let me tell you something, probably there is only one company, one of those very few companies in this world during COVID times made phenomenal business. Can anybody guess? There's obviously e-commerce, Amazon. You know why? In fact, if you see the Amazon situation, if you place an order to Amazon, today they need to source some material from the warehouses, put them into boxes, package it, and put into the transportation mode, and through that logistics mode, it has to reach your place. So there's a whole network is involved in this. Despite of all these disruptions, Amazon made a huge business during these times for a simple reason that they had a huge amount of resilience in their system. They could leverage these operators, logistic operators, to specifically work for their consignments. So this is a kind of resilience an organization has to build up, to enable themselves to survive these kind of disruptions. In fact, Amazon is one company which has converted their, this particular COVID as a huge business opportunity, and its valuations have gone up phenomenally high. So friends, responsiveness, resilience, and ultimately, of course, the continuity. Continuity is very important. Your business must go on. The show must go on. This is what is very, very important. But I'll tell you an example. Mr. Siddharth Shetty has committed suicide. and suddenly the company was left with no leadership, coffee day. So, but the show went on. On the other side, let me tell you an example. When the Union Carbide factory was burnt because of an accident, fire, chemical explosion in Bhopal in 1984, the company has died forever. It never recovered. So when a disaster happens, it's very, very important and how your company or your business operations or your organizational operations should move on. This is what it's all about. So today, I was telling you, earlier, 7.5 million mid-sized and small companies are likely to be closed during next 2 quarters. That means they are unable to continue the business because of this particular disruption. And this BCM is all about this particular disruption, how you convert this as an opportunity and start moving. So if you understand how the business continuity management has evolved, you have small business unit wise or a particular activity wise risk elements were there, and you have been managing those risks. And after that, ERM has evolved, where all activities, entire operations of the organization have been brought under this particular framework. Today, the world is talking about the business continuity management. That means you are going proactive and being yourself prepared for these kind of disruptions, and still you want to continue the business. So let us see what is business continuity management. The methodology used to create a plan for how an organization will resume partially or completely interrupted critical functions within a predetermined time after a disaster or disruption. This is how it is defined in the BCM handbook. If you see here, there are a few critical words. The organization will resume partially or completely. When a predetermined time after a disaster or disruption happens. Here, the key thing is the predetermined time. That means if an event happens, you are prepared that within few days or within few hours, your business has to resume. So there is a process involved for that, and you will write down that process, that protocol, and everybody in the organization will follow that protocol to resume the business within the defined time. That is what is BCM all about. So when any disaster happens, what gets affected? Primarily, your people will get affected. We have been seeing, half of the world, probably 2/3 of the world is working from home. They're all disturbed everywhere, and your data and information gets affected, and your equipment, machinery, your inventory gets affected drastically. And of course, when explosions or large-scale damages happen, your buildings and assets gets affected. Friends, here, my apologies, small glitch, yeah. But here, if you understand, yeah, let's move on. So to basically the strategy to address all the issues, you need a comprehensive protocol which covers all these activities. So the scope of BCM covers right from human resources, your data recovery operations, crisis management, facility management, safety, security, reputation, and public image. This leads to a great extent, because immediately when a disaster happens, you need to rebuild the trust. You need to rebuild the trust in stakeholders, and the public image is very, very important. And the supply chain management, because third-party stakeholders are involved in this. The financial management, cash flows, statutory requirements, insurances, claims, all these activities are brought under business continuity management as a package, and a framework is developed to address these issues. So basically, in the business, to just give you a quick understanding, in BCM, there will be 3 critical activities. The first activity is how your business is going to impact when an incident happens on a particular activity. So this impact analysis is assessed. There are quantitative methods in that. So in the quantitative methods, they assess this impact. And there will be, in the red part, you'll see there is a strategy which is developed to address a particular incident when it happens, how to mitigate that quickly, and how to minimize the damage. So that strategy is called BC planning. And combining these two, an action plan is developed, And this action plan is continuously put on to test by mock incidents and by trials and things like that, so that your entire system becomes very, very robust. So this whole process is written as a doctrine, as a protocol in the company, and every part of every function of and every person in the company will follow this regimentally. Further, let's move on. How exactly this helps. BCM basically is an organization. Helps increase in organization resilience to business disruptions, provides the capability to adequately react to the disasters. It builds confidence to stakeholders, and it assures continuity of the business without disruption, and it differentiates organizations from other competitors, and projects a favorable corporate image as well-prepared organization benefits. Today, in fact, if you see Fortune 500 companies, probably 60% of Fortune 500 companies made BCM as a doctrine that they have to follow mandatorily. So this is now increasing everywhere. In India also, a lot of companies have started following these principles. Let us see some of the success stories, how BCM has been successful. For example, let me tell you the first story about the banks in Japan. You're all aware, 2020 July, August, Japan was supposed to host Olympics. Unfortunately, they got rescheduled because of pandemic. But this has got a story before that. 5 years ago, Bank of Japan, suddenly all their systems were hacked by some of the hackers from other parts of the world I cannot name, and they have been demanded $70 million. And the Bank of Japan was one of the banks which has been associated with Tokyo Olympics. Right? I mean, the planning started, I think, around 10 years ago, and all the accounts and business was associated, was routed through Bank of Japan. And these hackers demanded $70 million, and later, of course, they could negotiate and they could do something, and they could manage the particular crisis. But then, Japanese government called all banks of Japan, and they want all the banks to implement a robust protocol and strategy to mitigate these kind of cyber attacks before the Olympics. So they estimated that if these attacks could have continued, there could be a $3 trillion business effect overall on all these banks. So then the Bank of Japan was one of the first companies, the first banks which took the clue, and they started implementing the BCM protocols, and they hired around 600 specialists who could restructure the entire process of their operations. And these consultants included right from banking operations to cyber experts to BCM consultants. And they spent around $60 million, and they developed a robust system. Today, it is a foolproof system, and this has been followed by the rest of the banks in Japan. Friends, this is very, very, this has become necessary and evident for all these corporate companies to put these kind of practices in place. Another classic example, I take it from India. You're all aware, if you see the photograph in the left bottom, this is, you're all aware, the Taj, one of the Taj Palace hotels, one of my favorite hotels, in fact. This hotel, of course, we're all aware, it was attacked by militants, and the hotel was burned down, and it has gone to, the entire business was disrupted for 6 to 8 months initially. So then the India hotels wanted to rebuild their image. More than anything else, they wanted to rebuild their image. That Taj hotels are supposed to be the safest hotels in the world. So then they hired some of the best consultants in BCM in the world, and they revamped their operations, right from security to hiring the people, the supply chain management, the vendors, safety, even the customer profiling. The people who walk into their hotels, they profile them actually. So when they have written a new protocol which covers the BCM concepts, and they have been strictly implemented in all hotels across India hotels. today I can tell you that Taj hotels are probably one of the safest and one of the best managed hotels in the world. Friends, so there are numerous examples how BCM has been implemented across the companies and across the world, and many companies got benefited. And during these COVID times, it is time for us to bring these concepts further down to the mid and mid-sized companies and the small-sized companies to protect them and to support them and to help them out. So there is a huge, development activities going on and further, refining this process of BCM. In fact, the people who are interested further, they can see the BS standards, the BS 25999. It is written in 2006, and of course now further they have improvised on that. And there is a professional body, Business Continuity Institute. There's a global body. They keep revising these global practices and guidelines frequently. It was last adopted in 2010, and right now they're going to change in 2020. So there's a vast studies going on BCM practices, and they have been implemented across the globe today. And the BCM is going to come in a big way. And the BCM is not just a management theory, or it's a basically management concept. It is more of a culture, a management culture, which has to put into the companies, like how we do quality or how we do safety. So with this brief introduction on BCM, I think my objective is basically to introduce the subject to you. Further, if anybody, any organization or any company or any institute is interested in studying this BCM, further developing on this BCM concepts, I'm open to help through AIMS or Dr. Prasad Rao Garu. And thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. I hope you enjoyed this session. And if you have any further questions, of course, still we have time, we can discuss on that. Thank you. Stay safe and stay healthy. Sir, Prasad Garu, it's all over to you.
Yeah. Thank you, Sai Prasad Garu, for giving an overview of the total business continuity management. And there is a good response from various participants. I could find out some questions that are interesting. There are several questions come to me. I'm consolidating all the questions, and I will group them into two questions, sir. Okay. Number one, what are the critical elements for the success of BCM in the organization?
Okay, yeah, let me address this question. Your question is, what are the critical elements in success of BCM in the organization? Right? Yeah, sir. The primary issue in the BCM implementation in any organization, let it be a company, let it be an NGO or any other organization, the commitment of the management is very, very important. If the management doesn't have the commitment in implementing these policies or these practices, of course, down the line, staff or their teams may not be very much interested. So the critical important thing is the commitment of the management. Second thing is, it has to be communicated across the organization. Normally, there people quote many incidences where BCM has failed or BCM did not react to in a right time. That's not true. That's because that usually BCM is discussed in the meeting rooms or boardroom levels, and it never percolates to the person who really operates in the front line. So that is why the protocol has to be communicated across the teams. Right from management level, leadership level to the operations level. These are the two important issues in the success of BCM. Yeah. Next question, sir.
Yeah, great, sir. And one more, it's a lead question only. How the risk or any threat can be measured?
Okay. So you mean to say the effect of the risk or effect of the consequence of the risk, how it can be measured? Yeah. In risk management, in enterprise risk management, and even now today in BCM, there are certain quantitative techniques. Okay, there are quantitative techniques available. And for example, for example, if you're going for a project, say a housing project, for example, a small housing project, assume that there could be a monsoon for 6 months or 3 months, and if you are in for example, Southeast Asian region, there will be almost 8 months. There will be rains. So people will factor these rains as a risk, and they quantify this, how much it will affect the business. So these quantification techniques can be learned further if you go deep into BCM practice. Actually, there are techniques available. Yeah, please, sir. Next question.
Yeah. The third question, of course, it is very general, sir. What is the difference between, insurance also is covering risk? How is it different from the traditional risk management by the insurance companies?
Okay, so an interesting question. This is where actually the concept of risk has started from the insurance companies and banking companies. From there, it's moved on to the enterprise risk management. See, an insurance company sees the risk from one perspective. One perspective is, suppose a particular project or a particular asset is insured, and if it gets affected, what is the implication? How much they're going to lose? How much they need to put? How much claim is going to come for them, so that the insurance companies have to pay? So purely that is taken from the financial angle. Okay, but when it comes to the BCM considers the risk from a much larger perspective. For example, let us assume a factory is, there is a fire accident in a factory. In a fire accident in a factory, insurance company sees basically what are their claims going to be. One, the damage of the asset. Two, if any lives or any casualties are there, the life insurance. Three, if there is a business is disrupted, how much they're going to claim. Or four, maybe their warehouses and inventory, how they're going to be, the claims on that. But there are other perspectives. Other perspectives are, for example, the cash flow company loses the cash flows. This cash flows gets affected. So because of that, what happens there? They need to pay. They need to borrow the additional money, and they need to put the money into the business that will have additional cost. And sometimes, they need to upgrade the technologies to survive. So when that has got an additional cost. And more importantly, the trust and the image in the stakeholders. For example, generally what happens is whenever a factory gets burned down, the worst affected parties are the vendors, the suppliers associated with that, the other stakeholders who are involved in the value chain, their customers. For example, they're supposed to make some investment, they're supposed to deliver a particular equipment to the client, and if the client doesn't get this equipment in time, he has to buy it from some other third party. Whatever the additional costs associated with that, they claim from these people, so because of their contracts. So they have to, basically in enterprise risk management or BCM more critically, they address all these issues in a comprehensive way. So this is the basic difference, how insurance company looks at a risk and how a BCM company looks at the risk. Is it clear, sir?
Yes, sir. Very appropriate answer. And another important question I got from the participants is, what are the specialized institutions? Are there any, mitigating this kind of risk? Because now the world is living in the disruptive, environment. We do not know what kind of risk is coming from which dimension or which direction.
Yeah.
So business continuity management definitely will address, but the preparation is the key here.
Yeah.
Okay. So what else we need to equip ourselves with kind of technology or preparedness for this kind of risks?
Yeah. Sir, there are certainly, there are knowledge centers and there are specialist people available in advising the companies on this. To simplify the whole thing, all Big Four consultants have got BCM specialists, and there is a BCI. As I told you earlier, Business Continuity Institute. This is a global body. They have Indian chapters as well available, and there are a lot of professionals, certified professionals in BCI. They will assist these companies in assessing the risk and advising on how to mitigate the risk and the overall BCM perspectives, the framework they design for your company and they'll give you. These experts are available. I mean, I can share some of the names privately. Of course, I cannot do it on an open forum, but certainly if somebody requires, I can definitely share those names.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions?
One more is there on the chart. How are the organizations percolating this message to that level about BCP, Business Continuity Management?
Business Continuity Planning. Yeah, exactly. Sir, let me tell you, this is a typical model. Normally, we emulate how this ISO system operates. Initially, when ISO system started, the quality management system, like ISO 9000, 9001, whatever, it used to initially start from only the management level or a boardroom level, leadership level. Slowly, it used to percolate down to operations level, at the frontline level. Same system applies here. Usually, when the BCM protocol is ready after the survey and after the study of the organization, these experts develop the protocol system, and this gets vetted by the management. And from there, level by level, it is trained for everyone. For example, a fire accident happens, how to react. Yeah. There is a defined system in a document will be there, how a frontline security person will react, how a a certified fire marshal will react, how a foreman will react, how a manager will react. There's a written protocols written everywhere, and these protocols are trained again and again. I told you, when in the BCP, I told you, when they have the, when they develop the, when they assess the implication, quantify the implication, when they develop a business strategy, the PCL strategy, then this is put into practice through mock drills and number of trainings. Actually, there will be a whole schedule will be developed, and this is a very, very critical activity in implementation of BCM in any organization that has to percolate down to the lowest person in the operations.
Yeah, there are actually so many compliments from most of the participants saying that it is a very useful and a very effective tool for mitigating this kind of risk. And some advice from other participants is that these kind of courses can be introduced at undergraduate or postgraduate level of management education.
Right. Yeah. You're right. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and this kind of business continuity management, apart from risk management, apart from insurance management, this could also be introduced as a core subject. It's not a specialized subject; it should be a core subject like operations management and production management. Yeah, another important thing, sir. While talking about the BCM, you have given an example of Amazon. Because most of the manufacturing companies are actually planning for this kind of BCM. What about the BCM practices in risk service organizations?
Yeah. Sir, let me tell you, when you talk of risk, usually people associated the risk only with the physical or tangible assets like inventory or warehouses or factories and buildings and things like that. But actually, whenever a disaster happens, whenever a disruption happens, the most affected element are the people. Like either it can be service organization, or it can be a manufacturing organization, or it can be any other kind of setup, even an NGO. Okay. So in service organizations, this is more critical because here the human talent or human knowledge is the raw material for this business, right? So when a disruption happens, for example, when I can quote one example actually. This happened in Singapore. One of the companies who has been providing the financial services to a large bank sitting in Singapore. In fact, it has been the support center for operations for the entire bank, for that particular bank in the Asian region. That particular building went on fire. First thing happened was people got disturbed. Forget the business. People ran away here and there, to bring them back. Some of them ran away to Malaysia, some of them ran away to Indonesia. People ran away, to different places. To gather the people back to the positions and put them and to identify who was who and how many casualties were there, who exactly got suffered and all that. And this is one element of that. The second element is the business, the services what they were providing. Everything obviously goes into a small, chips or whatever you call it, the memory system, the servers and the, backup servers and things like that. That infrastructure got damaged. So that is when that was the turning point for the BCM concept to evolve in a large scale. That is when this particular bank took this BCM concept in a big way. They made it mandatory for many of these companies. For example, you name Accenture, you name IBM, or Genpact, GE Capital. All these companies made it mandate that. So now for any company, if they have to assign these companies any project, they are checking whether these people are in compliance with the BCM practice or not. Now, BCM practice are actively used by service companies more than manufacturing companies, actually.
Yeah.
I think I could answer that question.
Yes, sir. Certainly. Very good response from you. Actually, most of the questions are almost the similar lines. If any particular question is there, I can send you an SMS or WhatsApp.
Sure.
Friends, I'm really very much grateful to Sai Prasad Garu because of the time schedule. I could not extend beyond 1 hour because he has several programs. It is on personal request and professional request he has accepted to be the guest of the day. I'm really very happy that he could bring out several issues like how COVID-19 pandemic changed the dynamics of entire business in the world and brought the new order. Business models, the financial dynamics, and stakeholders' positions have completely changed. These new changes have been throwing new challenges to business leaders for survival and progress. Leaders need to understand what the three criteria shall keep the companies floating and survive. Because one of my colleagues used to say, it should be jumps and starts so that, you can enjoy the life. Otherwise, if it is flat, there is no question of life at all. First, leaders need to understand and take the stock of situation of their own companies and peers. These include severe constraints on resources, finances, and personnel. Leaders also need to assess what is there in their control and what not. Based on the new scenario, they need to rewrite their business models and business strategies. The survival and progress of business in these difficult times completely depend on how effectively resources like personnel and finances are augmented and deployed effectively. Maintaining operational chains effectively and driving them towards business objectives shall be the key element in managing business during these difficult times. This presentation explained the elements that are required by the leaders to implement, in which include optimization and operational issues, value chains, and risk contingencies. Friends, I'm really grateful to the resource person and all of you for sparing your fantastic time with all of us for sharing the Gyan. It is not, Gyan sharing from one end to the other. Because of your questions, I could ask them, and the resource person could give wonderful explanation so that everybody, I think, got some clarity about BCM, Business Continuity Management. Friends, the Association of Indian Management Schools is always in the forefront. This is the first professional body came forward for organizing sessions not only from the academics, not only from the top class academicians, and also from the industry experts who have seen the real world, because the case studies are meant for that. real situations should be exposed to the student community. Then only they will understand, the intensity of the problem, so that they come up with some kind of solutions that will be useful for the entire society. I'm sure that under the leadership of Professor Sujata Mangaraj and other executive board members, the AIMS will be looking forward for conducting this kind of webinars in the days to come, apart from faculty development programs. I am grateful to Sai Prasad Garu and the Secretariat, the AIMS Secretariat under the leadership of Mr. Venkateshwarlu and his team, doing fabulous work even in these uncertain times, in this disruptive, because different questions from different corners, different issues from different corners, and different challenges. The Secretariat is helping all of us to provide some better service to the community, particularly the teaching and industry, both academia. Thank you very much. Thank you all for sparing your fantastic time. And thank you, Saiprasad Garu. Looking forward to have some more sessions in the days to come. Thank you very much.
Sure.
One and all.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.